Shelley. In fact, I'm going to even show them a little bit of the helmet today.
Oh, great.
Okay?
That's great.
All
That's
right.
great. Yeah.
You reminded me. I've got one right here. Thank you for being here. We're excited that spring begins tomorrow. It's obviously been a difficult past couple months. I think the largest regrets I've had in my life have been when I've disappointed people and let people down, and certainly in this particular situation, the mistakes I've made have been very disappointing, and I'm certainly sorry for that, as I've mentioned many times. We do have an ongoing investigation, and as Shelley mentioned, we're unable to discuss anything involved with that, and appreciate your understanding from that standpoint. Through these past couple months, we've certainly appreciated encouragement we've gotten from folks, and some privately, some publicly, some in this room. And probably the strongest inspiration I've gotten over the course of these past couple months from a job standpoint has been our tremendous administration and our staff, and most especially our team. We've got special young men in this program, and they know how we feel about them, and they make it known how they feel about us. Interestingly enough, probably as strong a inspiration as I've gotten from young people have been from the 5 young guys that will be facing sanctions. They were in a period for a while kind of waiting to see what the final results were going to be. And during our winter workouts, it was interesting. It was a little difficult for Tressel because he was on the sideline with a boot on and really couldn't be as involved as some. But the other 4, it was amazing watching their leadership and watching their attitude in the midst of going into their senior year with sanctions inevitable, and just watching the way that they led. Quite honestly, I was amazed. If you ask our strength coaches throughout the course of the winter, you ask our coaches throughout the course of the early morning workouts, the guy at every position that you could point to as the leader was the guy that was going through the toughest time, which tells you a lot about their ability to lead, and that has certainly strengthened me and our staff, and excites us about the fact that tomorrow we begin that focus on these 2011 Buckeyes. And that's what we're here to talk about today, and preview how it's going to be. It's going to be a little bit different team. I think all of you know that you look down that roster, and there's some folks that have played a lot of football that aren't here anymore, that have given us a tremendous amount of leadership that aren't here anymore. One of them just walked out of the room, and Cameron Hayward. We're going to miss a whole bunch of guys, which gives a lot of opportunity for the next group of people to step up and take over and see what the 2011 Buckeyes are all about. In my feeling and in my world, it starts with your staff. And we lost a great one in Daryl Hazel. You lose players, you lose coaches. Daryl's going to do a great job at Kent State, and he was our assistant head coach and coached our receivers. And we feel good about the fact that Stan Drayton is here to coach our receivers. And we think he'll do a great job with that. As we've rearranged our staff and so forth with Daryl's leaving, Luke Fickle has moved to the assistant head football coach position, and as was announced today, he would be the interim coach in the games that I will be missing, and I have tremendous confidence that he'll take care of things just as they should be. Our staff, as we've talked to you a lot about over the years, it's a staff by committee. There aren't a whole bunch of unilateral decisions. Jim Haycock's defense is really run by 4 guys. Jim Bowman's offense is really run by 5 or 5.5 guys. Sometimes they let me sneak in. And that's the way I'm sure Luke will do it. And we'll have a chance a little bit later for you to throw some questions at Luke and see what he anticipates and see what excitement he has and what nervousness and all the rest. And I'm sure he'll do a great job there. Our staff got a chance to go out and study. We studied ourselves throughout the course of the winter months, and then they got a chance to go and watch some people in spring practice and visit with some NFL people and try to stay up with what people are evolving to, and all the while thinking about our personnel and the people we have stepping up and getting ready to take on opportunities. And our defense had a chance to spend a lot of time with the Pittsburgh Steelers. We have an affinity for what they do. They are much like us structurally. We have an affinity for who runs their defense. And Dick LeBeau, he's the best. In fact, he was here today to watch camp. And so they spent a lot of time over with the Steelers, and they had some other staffs come in and visit them. Virginia Tech was in to visit, and some other folks to kind of share ideas. And offensively, we had a chance to visit LSU and the New Orleans Saints, University of Oklahoma, the Atlanta Falcons, University of Georgia. And so our guys went to work to figure out where things are going from an evolution standpoint so that they could bring it back and we could begin tomorrow to figure out what it is our kids can do. That's what spring practice is all about. I know a lot of people want to talk about spring practice as who's going to move into this spot and who's going to be first string and who's going to be second string and you know, those types of things. The spring practice is trying to figure out the personnel that we have and what do they do best, and then fit it in to the evolution of where we've been and where we want to go. And so that's what tomorrow's work will begin. Our spring format may be a little different because we're in different numbers at some positions. We'll only have 10 offensive linemen, which you know, gives you a little bit of a challenge, and we've got some new ones coming in for the August time. But with only 10 this spring, it will give us some challenges. We're a little bit thin at the receiver position, and that'll give us some challenges. And so we're going to have to format a little bit different. The key to a spring practice, much like the key to a preseason practice, is, you know, how much hitting do you do, and how much teaching do you do, and how much of this or that do you do. And we've got to make sure that we build our practices each and every day around what needs to be done to move forward. And we may even scrimmage a little bit differently because of our numbers differences. They may be a little bit more brief. Our spring game may be a little bit different in that I'm not sure we could field 2 teams. We have 10 offensive linemen, and we don't know if any of them have sprained an ankle by the time we get to the spring game. So it may be a little bit different format. Many of you have been around when we've done the jersey scrimmages, and it's an offense versus defensive situation. And we have a scoring system that's, you know, sometimes people question how we've come up with that scoring system. Our spring game may be a jersey scrimmage, in part because of our number situation, but in part because of some of our off-season meetings and conferences and surveys with our players. Is one of the things that they talked about as to how we could get better in the spring would be to have a more competitive spring game.